Hello again and welcome to another hour of Memory Lane football in the company of Mick Channon and Alan Ball. Well, this week we're concentrating on two London clubs who had probably their best teams ever during the 1970s. Crystal Palace sported names like Don Rogers, while Queen's Park Rangers nearly won the league title in 1975-76. Alan, what memories do you have of that QPR side managed by Dave Sexton, including people like Stan Bowles and Jerry Francis?
They had a good mixture of memory serves me well, of old heads and good ability, and young players bursting through like Jerry Francis. And I thought that year they were going to win the title, and they looked all set to win it. And I think Liverpool come and just pipped them right at the very end. That's right.
They were, of course, in those days playing on grass, and I think you have quite strong thoughts about what's happened since there, don't you?
Well, I still think the stadium that they played in was ever so tight. It was a bit like the Dell in many ways, and it was always difficult to go there and get results. And I think when the plastic has been put down for them, it's just made it that harder again. I think the home ground has always been a hard place to go to get results for them. It's always, stood in their favour, really.
And to get back to the Rangers' time of that era, there were players like Givens, Bowles, Masson and so on. There were some good players there, weren't there?
They had a very good team. As I say, memory serves me right, of experience as well. I think Frank McClintock had left Arsenal and gone there as well. I think John Hollins was there.
Yeah.
David Webb as well, I think he was there, yeah.
Yes. And Mick, you must have particularly fond memories of that team because, 2 days after Southampton won the Cup in '76, that same lineup of Queen's Park Rangers stars all came to the Dell.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. I mean, I think we could have played anyone that night. We just won the FA Cup, you could have played, David, And I have seen you play.
Only once.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes, it didn't really matter. But they were a good side, and they, but it's like a lot of teams. Ipswich have done it in the past. They've had a sort of, and Southampton have finished runners-up. They've all had a crack at it, but they just, they just don't seem to be able to carry it through year after year. But they were a very good side, and like Bawley says, once the likes of McClintock and Webby and that, they'd had their little fling after they'd been very successful elsewhere, then they tend to get on that glass mountain, and it's very hard to sort of lift yourself back up again. I agree with you about the AstroTurf. It's an artificial game playing on an artificial surface. It's not football for me. You don't get the same excitement, or it's not football at all.
But Rangers have always had a problem in that they live in the shadow of the big brothers in London, and they've always been one of the smaller London clubs, and yet they did have that glorious moment in the mid-70s when they had a good side and they were pulling in good crowds.
All credit to the manager at the time and the coaches at the time. They built a side and got it going as well as they can. But as Mickey says,
there's no secret. They got good players in.
Just can't maintain it. They got good old pros in, and they did a great job for them, but only for a limited amount of time. As we spoke about Liverpool, they just carried on year after year after year. But QPR, they had their spell, and this is one of the best sides they've had.
We've had the same sort of experience at Southampton. Laurie basically built a side, on a lot of old players, and once the young players stop coming through, then you have a bit of a slide.
But Queen's Park Rangers, despite all that, as I say, not a bad side in the mid-70s and gave us one or two quite nice memories.
Some great characters as well, wasn't there?
Right, well, it's time for Rangers in action now then. It's April 1976. They're at the top of the table. They're at home to Middlesbrough. The commentator here is Brian Moore.
Bowles. Outside of his left boot, trying to get Thomas away. And Thomas winning it well, beating Madron now. There's the cross going in towards Givens. Lovely cross there by Thomas, and Givens just beaten to it by some superb and desperate defence at the same time by Stuart Bolt. Now it's with Don Masson. Bowles, number 10. Curling it beautifully there for Ian Gillard. Still with Gillard, and a shot and a good save by Platt. Well, Gillard wriggled his way through there nicely and let go quite a good powerful shot, but Platt saved well. Biggest shout at half-time, I think, of the whole game, probably. was when it was announced over the loudspeaker that Manchester United were 1-0 down at Ipswich and that Derby were losing at Manchester City. But here's Gibbons. That's a good save. Beautiful save there from Jim Platt as Gibbons let that go. Bryan in first. Really only Boersma and Armstrong playing it forward. Gibbons, beautifully timed leap there, beating Bowles. Bowles now to Thomas. This must be it. No, it's not, because it was beautifully played away by John Hickton, the number 2. The fullback who came, well, he's known as a striker at Middlesbrough. He began his career as a fullback, though, at Sheffield Wednesday. And when it seemed that Thomas was really there on the point of scoring, he saved superbly for Middlesbrough. Mills and Webb, a foul by Webb on Boersma, just outside that area. So can Middlesbrough do something here? With about 8 minutes of the second half gone. Stan Bowles has been behind the kickers, organising that Rangers wall. Saunis with a shot right through there, and it's there by Boersma. Well, that really is a shaker for QPR. As Saunis took that tremendous free kick through the wall, Parks went down, couldn't hold it, saw it at the very last moment, and Boersma was there to snap it up and score his first goal for Middlesbrough. Queen's Park Rangers 0, Middlesbrough 1, and Phil Boersma has shaken everybody at Loftus Road. Clement. Now Francis. Clement again. Down he goes, penalty. Middlesbrough don't like it, but you can be sure Jack Taylor won't be moved as Clement went flying there. The referee had no hesitation in pointing to the spot. And so it is that Rangers now have a golden chance to get a golden equaliser. Stuart Bohm can't believe that it's been given, but it has. Stan Bowles is normally the man who takes them, but he's not going to take them. Jerry Francis is the fellow who has got the responsibility. So a skipper's responsibility for Jerry Francis against Jim Platt, and he's got it. 1-1. Francis puffs out his cheeks because he knows that wasn't the best penalty he'll ever take, and in fact it went under Jim Platt's body as Jerry Francis took it. Platt dived to his left, but it went under his body into the back of the net. Rangers 1, Middlesbrough 1. McClintock, and another Middlesbrough throw. Nail-biting times these. Masson. Well, what about that for a pass again? Straight to Jerry Francis. Rangers throw. Bowles. But Armstrong can bring it away for Middlesbrough. Not far, though. Well, he might. Now Hollins. People like Hollins and Gillard and Clement who've got to come forward, otherwise they're always going to be outnumbered. But here's Gibbons. Yes! was a slight deflection on the way, taking it even wider past Platt and just inside the far post. Queen's Park Rangers 2, Middlesbrough 1. Don Givens, the man who got it, on 13 for the season now. Saunis. Tremendous comeback here by Queen's Park Rangers after suffering that early blow in this second half. Collins, here's Thomas away now. Hickton is after him. And Hickton caught him at the expense of a corner. So here's Masson now with the corner for QPR. Dave Sexton there, a little more relieved now, but he won't be happy until there's another one in. It's a deep one this time towards David Webb. It'll come to Jerry Francis. A touch here for Stan Bowles. Looking for just the yard and looking for just the angle, and Cooper is really at him like a terrier all the time. Here's Francis. Ball still remarkably in play. Borsma. Madrid. Hickton, high towards David Mills. A backward header and Armstrong is there, trying to tuck it back for Saunis, but it went astray. McAndrew. Done very well there, but McClintock blocking it. Oh, and McClintock's half lost it as well. Here's Mills again. They're not out of the wood yet, but Hollins got him out of it beautifully. Nice bit of control there by Bowles, but he's given it away as well to Saunis. Now Gillard. And away goes Thomas. Inside for Don Givens. Bowles is steaming through the middle there, but it was a fraction too hard for him. And even so, Thomas very nearly got there before Platt. Webb, played for Gillard. Oh, a nice dummy there by Givens, on for Bowles. Bowles has gone through to the middle as well, and he almost got there, and he might still get there. Francis hammering it in, that's number 3. Superb break by Bowles and Givens, and when Givens looped it in, it looked as though Bowles might have a chance, and then it looked as though he lost it. Platt managed to block it, but it only came to Jerry Francis, and he whacked it into the back of the net. 3-1. And Jerry Francis' second goal. And now Bowles. Look at that ball played there for Thomas. Here's a great chance now for Thomas. Oh, and a marvellous save. But Thomas is still there with a chance. But nobody up to support him, so he has to go on his own. And Platt saves the second time. Marvellous run there by Dave Thomas. And a really excellent save in the first place from Jim Platt. And with 5 minutes to go, Chairman Jim Gregory has left his seat in the director's box, as he usually does. He can't bear to watch anymore, even though Rangers are these two goals up. Masson. Bowles. Still Bowles. Will this be the 4th? Yes! Stanley Bowles. Carving them up. Easy, easy, roar the crowd as they're on their feet everywhere. As Bowles took that ball beautifully, snaked his way through, right foot shot just inside the post. Queen's Park Rangers 4, Middlesbrough 1. who to my mind has probably been Rangers' best player on this afternoon. Webb absolutely magnificent, again doing a good defender's job there. But Armstrong dinking that one in. Oh, and it's there by Bryan. Well, that stuns everybody. And in fact, I think half the crowd didn't even realise it was a goal. But as it came in there was just a moment of hesitation. And Bryan whacked it into the roof of the net to score the second goal for Middlesbrough.
Victory then to Queen's Park Rangers 4-2. And Mick, one of the fascinating players for me in that game was Stan Bowles, because you tend to forget Stan Bowles was a very popular player at that time, went on to play for England and scored a good goal.
Fascinating for me as well, because I think that Stan was probably one of the most underrated players that I've ever sort of had the pleasure to play with. I mean, I remember playing with him in Italy in the game we lost 2-0. And it was me and Keegan and him played up front. And to be honest with you, me and Keegan didn't kick a ball. But Stan would, you know, he was a good competitor and he got stuck in. Talking about Stan though, the great thing was he was a fierce gambler. Ball he knows. He used to turn up at the track at times and that. But he's one of those players that he just played football because he loved to play it. And he still plays now, you know, for a local pub team, Stan. He's that type of lad. Yeah. Although he's a gambler and he'll gamble every penny. He's unbelievable. But I always remember telling him a story. I says, I often, you know, when I was at Southampton, I often used to watch the 3:15 race. And, you know, I would be half stripped up in the players' room at Southampton, shoot down, like, more or less, I'd have my boots on and that, listen to Laurie's, you know, last few minutes talk and straight out onto the pitch. And Stan, I always remember Stan saying to me, he said, well, I can top that, he says. He says, I've watched the 3:15 race. He says, I've had my kit on. He says, I've run out the door, out the ground, round the corner to the betting shop, picked up my winnings, back into the dressing room and straight onto the pitch. Wonderful. And I tell you, that is a true story. That is a lad that he wasn't wound up. He wasn't frightened about who he was playing against. And I tell you, he would go out and he'd play from there. He'd play from the heart.
As well.
Go on then, Alan.
Oh, he can top that.
Mickey Channon, right? Grand National Day, Mickey Channon, race starts 3:15. Stood with his feet on the touchline, listening to the race. He got about 5 balls, never moved a yard, and backed the winner. 3:20, started to play. That'll do for me. 3:20.
Did we win?
Only when you start to play.
That's right.
That particular game, they looked as if they were going to win the league.
Yes.
And that was why you saw all the passion and all the thing going at Lofthouse Road. And we thought, at that time that you know, it was only a matter of time before the league, and as we said, they just got pipped at the end. And for Frank McLean to leave a club like Arsenal, and he's getting on in his days, to go there and lead again from the heart, to me that shows the strength and the character of the person. Plus you got Webby in there, you know, another one, a great fighter, another one who's had success in another club, gone there. You got Johnny Hollins, exactly the same. And to me, that was the strength of the side.
You probably had a mixture, you know. Jerry Francis was the youth, with the young lads coming through.
Yeah.
And I always felt that Jerry Francis was probably a better club player than he was international. You know, he did quite well at international and he was captain of England. But, I mean, for me, when he was playing, that was his biggest problem. If he was a horse, they'd have shot him, wouldn't they? You know, he was always injured. But, I mean, he was an exceptional young player. And, you know, I mean, he was a good midfield player. And, like I said, they had that balance. They had the youth. Don Givens up front, who was an out-and-out goal scorer. Stan with a bit of flair, and they were a well-balanced side.
Right. Well, after the break, we're going to see Crystal Palace taking on Manchester United in a truly memorable match. Join us in a couple of minutes. Welcome back, and time to enjoy a classic league encounter from the early 1970s. It's April 1971, and in the sunshine of a packed Selhurst Park, it's a First Division thriller. Crystal Palace against Manchester United. Your commentator, Brian Moore.
Now Gowling, this long, rangy player, with McCormick, another long, rangy player, and the ball, in fact, going behind, but the free kick given to Crystal Palace. A little bit of pushing there by Alan Gowling on McCormick. Of course, Alan Gowling, of course, is in our final 6 of the Golden Goals and scored a magnificent goal at Chelsea to get into that final 6. And now it's Birchinall streaking away, and a goal! Supreme opportunism again there by Alan Birchinall. Tremendous acceleration, putting him clear of that United defence and giving Stepney no chance as he came out. So it's Stepney with no chance and Birchinall with his 13th goal of the season to put Palace ahead with only 4 minutes gone. Now Best. Crerand with the kick to Fitzpatrick. And now Best. With a shot across that Palace goal, that wasn't so far off. Snaking little run again by George Best. And McCormick. And Scott beaten so easily by Crerand. Bobby Charlton to Law. Not the best of passes by Law, and it goes to Tony Taylor. Sadler, oh, losing it to Tambling. And number 2, Bobby Tambling. A mistake by Sadler, giving Stepney no chance. And Tambling makes it 2-0. It was Sadler's mistake, and Tambling pounced on it. Stepney got a hand to it, but couldn't hold it. 2-0 to Crystal Palace, and it was Bobby Tambling, in fact, who scored the only goal of the game by which Crystal Palace won a league game up at Old Trafford earlier this season. Tambling, and Hoadley doing that one slip, and Law now for Gowling. Still Gowling, Law, and a goal! 2-1, Dennis Law. Law and Gowling delighted, and Law telling Gowling that it was his cool-headedness that set up that chance, unmistakably, for Dennis Law to come in there like a whiplash and finish it off. So Manchester United, with 3 minutes to go to half-time, get back into this game. Through Law. Willie Morgan. Between two players, and the referee has stopped it, which may have been a pity for United because they were in possession with either Crerand or Gowling to go for it, but he gave the free kick, and it's Bobby Charlton to take it. Law was saying he wants it in the air, so too does Gowling. And Law, in fact, with an overhead kick, and it's there! He didn't catch it properly, but it went in for all that. Completely deceiving John Jackson. Struck low by Charlton. Law tried the most extravagant of overhead kicks. He didn't catch it properly, but it went in all the same. And United are level. Kemba. Scott. Wonderful open game this is now. Still Scott. And now for Bobby Tambling, with time enough to have a real good shot, but straight into the stomach of Alex Stepney. If ever the stage now is set for George Best to do something, it's now, with United coming back from a very bad position indeed to 2-2, and the game so open, and Best prepared to contest even a throw-in. A match with a lot of bite in it, for all the fact that neither of them are really desperate about First Division points. Free kick to Crystal Palace. Terry Wharton to take it. Peter Wall's gone right up to reinforce that front line. Birchinall with his head to it, done to hoof it away. Gowling and Hoadley, and now Best off in chase. Jackson doesn't know whether to come or stay. Still Best. Still Best! And a goal kick. And at the moment, Manchester United doing exactly what Crystal Palace did so well in the first half, with some brilliant breaks from defence. Wharton. And now Scott. Wharton again to Birchinall with Tambling on, sweeping on the outside of him now. Bobby Tambling again, but not enough power. Ferrand. Birchinall quicker to react to that than Edwards. But Fitzpatrick also quick to react. Law, Charlton. And on the far side, Crerar. Look at that for a pass as well. What a superb pass by Charlton. Oh, not such a good one by Paddy Crerar, but in fact, Bobby Charlton made something of it. Law lifting himself again. Gowling, Best, and there it is! George Best, 3-2, and Manchester United's comeback is complete. Well, when it was nodded down, John Jackson had no chance because Best was ready to pounce on it and put United into the lead. So Best, the top scorer for Manchester United, takes his tally now to 17 and gives Palace something really to fight for now. Kemba trying to go it alone. Well, we were saying at the start of the second half that it was Bobby Charlton's turn to whip his men up, and now it must be Steve Kemba's, and there you have the United fans with their cheerleader and all. Kemba, Payne, and Best once more bursting on that scene, and played there nicely by Crerar for Best to hammer on, and Jackson, and it's there! Oh, a mistake by John Jackson, and Best has scored again. Jackson is absolutely disgusted with himself sitting in his goal. He makes so few mistakes in the course of a season, but that was a bad one, and United get their fourth goal. And Jerry Queen is on, the substitute for Crystal Palace. And it looks as though it might be Terry Wharton who's going off. United fans probably can't even believe it themselves. 2-0 down, and now 4-2 up. And now Hoadley, a long one forward. There's Queen going in for his first touch, but in fact it was Edwards who got ahead to it first. Jerry Queen, second top scorer here, with 10. And there's Queen again, trying to lay it off, but a little too far ahead of Bobby Tambling, and Palace at the moment quite dispirited. Gowling. And McCormick finding Kemba. Nice little flick there that finds Scott. On to Queen. With a good shot there by Queen, and it wouldn't rebound to a Palace player. Law. Finding Morgan. Good cross by Morgan, and Law very nearly got ahead to it. Crerar following it in. And Wall through the legs of Morgan to Taylor. Tambling. Oh, and Clarence beaten him. Played there for Law, and number five by Dennis Law. And that, of course, is Law's hat-trick. So a hat-trick by Law, and 2 by George Best. And that goal made for him by Pat Crerar. and still inscrutable, Matt Busby. Tambling. Queen. Oh, and that might still fall for Taylor, and it was hacked behind for a corner by Paul Edwards. Something like 8 minutes to go, and Manchester United leading by 5 goals to 2. Taylor with the corner. Wall flicking it in, and it's there by Queen! Jerry Queen, who got the final touch. Taylor's corner, and it was nodded on, and Queen, who bent low just to get the touch past Alex Stepney. So 8 goals now in this game that has been full of so much good entertainment. Taylor with a throw. Kemba. Past Best. Ball bobbling, not very helpful to him. Wall, though, a good pass there by Wall to Taylor. Taylor with Fitzpatrick. Again trying to go on the outside of him. And a free kick given to Crystal Palace. Hard to see what that was for, but the referee was right with it. Tony Taylor with it. And even McCormick's gone up for this one. And Birchenall's there too. McCormick getting a head to it. Got it on! Oh, and kicked away over his own head by Bobby Charlton. Well, how did Charlton get a foot to that? Now Kemba. Really is all happening in that penalty area now. Tambling, belted away by Edwards, but only as far as Taylor. Now Wall. Everything now is centred in that penalty area. Oh, and picked over his own goal by Edwards. 2 minutes to go. Bobby Charlton there in the background, the real saviour for United there. And Taylor with the call-up for the Palace. Now Kemba. Still Kemba, played wide for Taylor with time to get it across. Low and hard, and Birchenall! Oh, a magnificent save!
Well, United there, Alan, were 2-0 down. They win 5-3, and Dennis Law scores a hat-trick. And I know you've always been a great admirer of Dennis Law, haven't you?
Well, now you're talking about a showman, aren't you? A great showman, a great player too. For me, one of my idols as a kid, because he brought the game alive. His face had so much expression on it after he scored goals, and when he'd score goals, there was something there, that feeling in the air. He crackled the fella, and he'd never give you any peace. And to me, he was the first of the great showmen, selling the game to the public.
Yes.
And his goals there typified everything about him in the box. His first one, Garland's done well, pulled one back, and he's come just slid it round with his left foot. The next one, you know, the chap said he was, the commentator said he was lucky or he didn't hit it right. To me, as it's come in, he knew exactly where the goals were. And again, he's a scissor kick, but he just slid it down the left-hand side again, the old left foot, and it's gone. The third goal, a ball played in again. This time he's chopped it back across the keeper with his right foot. Class goals from a class player. Loved him.
You would never stop goal scorers like that because they would hit a ball. They would have their shots before people had moved. You know, balls would come to them, and they would half turn, would knock it there. And I tell you what, there was no offsides then. But I tell you what, there's not the goal scorers about that they were. They had more vision. They knew exactly where they were in the penalty area. Ted McDougall was another. They would do things. They would toe poke things because that's all they could do, and it would go in.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's what we're lacking now. We're trying to set things up and make everything so deliberate. Doesn't matter how you get the ball in the net.
I disagree with you a little bit, Mick, on that one. My own personal opinion is now that forwards cannot get in them areas as often as they did in those days, because as soon as that ball looks like being paid through, defenders are flying out. And they're driving forward so far away from goal that you're not having the incidents in and around the box that you got in those days.
You get more offsides now on the halfway line, is what you're saying. You know, you can be offside on the, a yard in their half.
The coaches have shut the game down, and they're driving forwards away from goal with the offside rule. Plus the fact in those days, I don't think linesmen had flags. You never see them.
Well, in a few minutes, we're going to move on 2 seasons and see Crystal Palace take a really terrible revenge on Manchester United, thanks to a certain Don Rogers. Join us after the break. Welcome back, and now a chance to see Crystal Palace take their revenge for that 5-3 beating. 18 months later, and Manchester United have no Best or Charlton, and Dennis Law is only the substitute. Palace, meanwhile, now have Alan Whittle up front, and Don Rogers, the man who made his name with Swindon. December 1972 then, your commentator, Brian Moore.
Buchan. McDougall, the layoff for Tony Dunn. And McDougall has gone sprinting in there, and Blythe will have to go with him. And Taylor in trouble, and more! And a great save by John Jackson. Beautiful piece of play by Tony Dunn, though, a lovely swerving cross that McDougall and Moore very nearly capitalised on. And Jackson in the end making a great save, and now Cook pressing Buchan hard. David Sadler, seen little of him so far. Young. O'Neill to Brian Kidd. Donald, or rather Philip. Mulligan. Don Rogers. Oh, nicely inside the full-back for Mulligan. Here's a chance, and a goal! Scored by Mulligan, but made beautifully by Don Rogers. Mulligan's goal, and his first for Crystal Palace. And he was sneaking in there, but it was the pass by Rogers that made it. 1-0 to Crystal Palace, and Tony Dunn is down and injured. So United kick off again, a goal down, and it's with Ian Moore. Straight into the path of Rogers. Now here's the chance again to make another one. Just across that goal, Stepney getting a despairing hand to it. And United all over the place. It looked very much to me as though Stepney got a hand to it. But a goal kick has been given. And United really were all over the place. Mulligan. Hughes. And Mulligan again has gone up the wing. There's the ball for Mulligan. They're playing some good football now, Palace. Hughes storming on. And it was Kidd, a striker, who had to come back and bolster that defence. And it's Hughes again with the corner for Crystal Palace. Hit low again. Payne. Blythe was right in there. Payne. United holding off them. Whittle now with a shot, and a fraction passed and pushed there by Stepney. And Whittle so close to adding number 2 on his first appearance. And Manchester United simply don't know which day it is. Turned in again. Cook there, but Kidd there a fraction before him. Mel Blythe following it through, stabbing one there for Cook. And now Hughes, and now Mel Blythe. Oh, and he missed the sitter. He got in a superb position. It was a beautiful pass for him, and he missed the sitter, Mel Blythe. Moore. United still playing with 10 men. Morgan towards Wyn Davis, turned on there, and McDougall very nearly snatching onto that one. But now Mulligan for Palace. Charlie Cook. Scorching forward again. Whittle had moved offside, came back onside. Hughes, a lot of space. Still Hughes, still Hughes. Whittle, a save by Stepney. Hughes really was threading his way through. And now it's the turn for Ian Moore to thread his way through. Still with Moore, and stopped by Jackson, and I don't think he knew too much about it. Moore waiting to come on. Jackson shaking his head because he doesn't know how he saved it. Ian Moore to Brian Kidd. Mulligan. Philip. Payne. And onside, yes, Hughes is onside. He didn't look it, but the linesman said he was. And Hughes has his shot saved on the line by O'Neill. He got back so quickly, and in a way I think it was justice because he looked offside. But now United taking possession with their skipper Martin Buchan. Brian Kidd. Wyn Davis. And good play there by Bobby Bell. Now the chase is on. Rodgers going faster than any of them. Still with Rodgers. All played inside for Mulligan. And another goal! Paddy Mulligan second. Made for him by Don Rodgers, just as the first one was. And Paddy Mulligan, the skipper and the fullback, turns a striker twice to such very good effect. The ball from Rodgers, and Mulligan, a fairly simple task. Whittle. Rodgers, and he's onside, Don Rodgers. Six at one side now. That's there. That's number 3. Tremendous presence of mind by Don Rodgers. Made for him by Alan Whittle. But Rodgers, in a way, doing a Pele. Turning it one side of Stepney, running the other, and then finding the net to put Crystal Palace 3-0 ahead. Kidd eluding that challenge by Ian Phillip, and now Willie Morgan. Law. Wyn Davis for Ian Moore. Still Moore, snaking his way beautifully there by Ian Moore. Mulligan finally getting it away for Crystal Palace. And Mulligan now taking it up from Hughes. Inside for Cook. United, if anything, getting more to grips with this game when they were 3-0 down than when they were 0-0. Moore taking it up again for them. This time for Morgan. And with Tony Young right in there as well, but Payne's challenge beating him. Whittle coming in. And now Rodgers away again. Well, he got him going one way, got him going the other, just over. That would have been a marvellous goal by Don Rodgers, because his running was so sure, and he really turned Sadler inside out, and then saw Stepney leaving a gap on that far side and aimed for it. And instead it's Rodgers now. Oh, there's a chance for the break. Rodgers going the length of the field. And still going on. And he's got the pace to get beyond Buchan. And the shot. Well, that was a tremendous run again by Rodgers. Here's up. And Whittle goes on. Hughes. Whittle. Well, that's incredible. Yes! Alan Whittle! Alan Whittle! His first game and his first goal. There was still no challenge in that United defence, and Whittle and Hughes between them had time to work out what they were going to do, and Whittle finally curling it past Stepney. 4-0. Coming in for Palace, And this has been their greatest afternoon. And there's Rodgers. Will this be 5? It's going to be 5. It is 5. Ron Rodgers, his second. Crystal Palace, his 5th. And that is utter and total confusion and demoralisation for Alex Stepney. The look that tells everything for Alex Stepney and for Manchester United. 5-0. Rodgers' second, and a beautiful goal it was. And yet it's only 3 short years ago that Manchester United came here as the first team to play at Selhurst Park in the First Division. And I remember a lot of people in South London were saying they were almost like men from another world. And here we are 3 years later, Palace 5, Manchester United 0. That is the final whistle. Afternoon in Crystal Palace's history.
That Don Rodgers performance, Alan, I would think that's probably one of the best performances we've seen in this series so far, wouldn't you?
It was electric. Everything he did, he tormented them on this occasion. He ran at people, he did everything. He caused all sorts of panic. Real strong. I didn't realise he was as pacey and as strong as he was. And plus the fact his feet and his little shimmies and everything, he gave a great performance there. I wish he'd have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yes, he's a bit cool, isn't he?
I always remember him. I mean, he won the league. It was called the League Cup then for Swindon when they were a third division side. They beat Arsenal. Remember I remember him going around Bob Wilson and knocking in the winner. I mean, he had tremendous. I just wish he had a bit more devil in him. You know, I mean, I remember him as a kid, and if he had that little bit more devil in him, he could have been. He believed in himself. Because what I found, I don't know about you, Bally, but I tell you what, all the great players I've played with, they believe they can beat the world.
Yes. And
that's what football's about. And Don, we see what he can do. I mean, he was obviously on a high, and he believed in what he was doing. He was with, he was comfortable. He was with Bert Head, who he started his football career with. He believed in him, and he's gone out and turned in a performance like that, which is the best we've seen anyway up to now, isn't it?
It's a tragic thing that he only turned it on now and again and caught your eye, but to be able to have the equipment that he had and not do it as much as he did was obviously why he wasn't picked for his country. Because he turned performances like that in every week, I promise you. The people would have been talking about him all over the world.
Yes,
because that was a great performance, in my opinion.
Yes. Sad from his point of view, as you say, he didn't do it more often. Looking at United, they weren't quite so good then, were they? It was a bad time for them.
Well, there didn't seem to be as many names in the side. They looked at, I mean, Dennis Law was sub. He must have been coming at the end of his time with Manchester United. And they had lots of new faces, and they looked to be on the slide a little bit.
Martin Buchan, who you saw there basically cheating. I mean, I always thought he never took enough responsibility. Sadler, who for me could have done a lot more about it. I think it was the second goal, the one of Mulligan's, the second one.
Shut him down.
They could have done more about it, and they looked a side playing without confidence, and that was the difference between the two. One side believing, one side, not giving a monkeys, really.
But still, when you look at a game like that, it does bring back some marvellous memories, doesn't it? Because here we are, chatting away with all the enthusiasm of a game which happened 13, 14 years ago.
Well, I tell you what, the goal that Don Rodgers scored when he knocked it one side the goalkeeper and ran round him, I mean, if Pelly had scored that, I mean, that was as good a goal as you'll ever see. And he's not. Then the covering fullback's gone back and he's knocked it back the other side of him.
That to me was the class bit about the goal. The fact that he knew somebody, because he knocked it so far around the goalkeeper, he knew somebody would be coming to shut the near post off, and he's chopped it back in the other corner. That was quality. It really was.
Another lovely moment from an entertaining game, wasn't it?
Very, very good
Great game. Good game.
Well, sadly, we have to end it there then. We hope you've enjoyed a look at two of the smaller London clubs going well back in the 1970s. Both Palace and Rangers certainly had a few players worth watching in those days, didn't they? From the three of us, it's goodbye.
There's people like Hollins and Gillard and Clement who've got to come forward, otherwise they're always going to be outnumbered. But here's Gibbons. Yes! Bowles. Still Bowles. Will this be the fourth? Yes! Whittle. Well, that's incredible. Yes! Alan Whittle! Rodgers, and he's onside, John Rodgers. Kicks it one side now. That's there. That's